I would like to introduce to you our current U.S. Representative, Mr. Steve Southerland.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay? Remember doing this most of my life in church, so I'm used to. Great. I want to say thank you very much. It's a great honor to be here tonight. I want to make sure I know that I stay within the parameters. I go to so many events. I've got changing rules in every event. So just kind of coach me through, since I'm the only person here tonight. Tell me how you're going to follow the same.
Go ahead and take 10 minutes and ready to ask you questions.
Well, let me say this. One of the things I have, it's great to be here. First of all, Jackson County is precious to me. Anytime I come back here, I feel close to my roots. Many of you know I talk about my family a lot. I'm proud of my family, and I'm proud that my family originated here, the Florida part, right here in Jackson County. You've heard me talk about my grandmother and how she was born in Bascom, and I love Jackson County. So thank you for your kindness and allowing me to be here. You know, I'm in the heat of a re-election campaign. And you know, in a re-election campaign, it's a lot of hard work. But I was raised in a family where we were made to work. I was raised in a family with my father and my mother and my grandparents. That was the expectation. We were made to work, and we knew that was the expectation because we were raised in church. I'm proud of the fact that I'm a born-again Christian. I've proclaimed that from the front steps of the Capitol of the United States of America, and I will continue to do that until the Lord calls me home. I think I didn't run to be a representative in the United States House of Representatives to attain a new way of life, to attain a new lifestyle, or to become something that I wasn't. I ran because I have a deep calling, I believe, from the one who made me, saved me, and redeemed me. And I believe also that he sent me there to preserve the life that I know and the life that I have enjoyed. And it is a life that's quite simple. It's not complicated at all. I talk about my upbringing. I talk about my mom and dad. And I talk about the way they raised us and the admonition of the Lord. And I'm proud of that. And I find that the way I was raised was really very much in line with what our founding fathers believed. And it's high time that we sent men and women to Washington, D.C. to stand up for truth, and not just political truth, but eternal truth. And so I want you to know that I'm proud of the lessons I learned at 528 and 508 West Baldwin Road. And the reason I use both of those addresses is because I grew up in a house right beside my grandparents. So we lived in one house, my grandparents lived in the other. And the expectations were very simple. We learned by the age of 10, really, we were introduced to our faith. We knew that you had to believe in something bigger than yourself. And if you really wanted to know the purpose of your life, if you really wanted to know what your life was created here to do, if you really wanted to understand purpose and passion, then you have to have a relationship with the one who made you. And so that was introduced to us, all my siblings, by the time I was 10. The second thing we learned is that God's holiest of institutions is not the church. It's the family. And it's the marriage. And it's a marriage between one man and one woman. And the best environment, the best little greenhouse to raise little people, our founding fathers referred to them as our posterity, is in a home where a woman and a man love each other, second only to their love of God. And you know what? My parents blessed us because they introduced that to us by the time we were 10. By the time I was 10, I had 3 brothers and sisters. And my parents taught us that these are your lifelong best friends. These are the ones that you will sink or swim with. These are going to be your advisory board throughout life. And now I'm proud to tell you that Tim and Suzanne and Shane are my very best friends, outside my wife, Susan. And by the way, I'm proud to even tell you about the age of 10. When I was in first grade, I met Susan, my wife. So I'd learned a lot of things by the time I was 10. You're going to see out at our table, you're going to see a picture on a little palm card, and it's Susan. Next month, we will have been married 25 years. And on this picture, you'll see a picture of Samantha, Stephanie, Allie, and Abby. And I tell you, when I ran 2 years ago, I'd never been elected office before, ever. I was a student body president of our high school in 1983. But that's the only office I had really ever served. And I'll tell you that I felt that it was time for men and women with my conviction and my understanding of God's Word, as well as our Constitution and our founding documents, our Declaration, that all men are created equal. All men are created equal and are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and that among those are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I'm here to tell you, there's a lot of world religions that would have never penned that statement. There's a lot of world religions that don't believe that men and women are equal. There's a lot of world religions that would have never been part of the 56 men that signed that letter, because their faith, their actions, their life is not about equality of people. But you know what? That statement, that all men are created equal, is validated in God's Word. I was taught in a home that told me that the ground at the base of the cross is all level. It's all level. I had a pastor friend years ago used to say, what tags and titles don't burn off going down, they're going to blow off going up. Pastor, you stood up here a few minutes ago and you talked about the hope of America. I'm here to tell you it's not in a Republican Party. It's not in a Democratic Party. It's truth. The hope of America is an absolute truth. And I got to tell you, until we get back to those values, they're outlined in here, in this Constitution. Those men understood, and I read you some things in here that are amazing about what our founding fathers. Benjamin Franklin said, only a virtuous people are capable of freedom. As nations become corrupt and vicious, they have more need of masters. Benjamin Franklin. John Adams says, our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. George Washington, of all the dispositions and habits which lead to political prosperity, religion and morality are indispensable supports. In vain would the man claim the tribute of patriotism who should labor to subvert these great pillars of human happiness, these firmest props of the duties of men and citizens. Let it simply be asked, where is the security for property, for reputation, for life, if the sense of religious obligation desert the oaths which are the instruments of investigation in courts of justice? It is impossible to govern men apart from morality and apart from religion. Because you know what? If men were angels, we wouldn't need government. But men are not. I'm standing here tonight in a battle. I don't have to tell you, you've been watching your TV, you know that. World War II bombers used to say, if you're not taking flak, you're not over the target. Well, guess what? I'm over the target. My mom asked me the other day, she goes, did you go to Washington, D.C. and just upset everybody? Because they're coming. Because everything I've said to you tonight, they fear. Everything I've said to you tonight is truth. I didn't come up with this. This is not my words. This is truth. And I believe that the truth will set you free. And I believe that if we get back to the principles that our founding fathers intended to govern this great nation, that God's steady hand, the hand that Washington called the hand of providence, the same hand that oversaw the Israelites out of Egyptian bondage, that same hand will lead America into a bright future. We have a chance. We have a chance, but time is fleeting. There's an urgency that must be felt by the American people. I've done exactly what I promised you I would do. I've been persecuted, and I count it all joy because I've not stood up for one thing that I don't believe in, and I haven't stood up for one thing that I wouldn't die for. My future's bright. My future's bright, both here and next. Thank you for the opportunity to serve you. I look forward to answering questions. And with your support and your help, I look forward to starting my second term as your representative in the 113th Congress so that we can get America back to the principles that made us great. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
First question?
Let's go.
Okay. Many of us are very troubled by the increasing irrelevance of Congress, that much of its constitutional responsibilities are being taken over by the executive branch through the use of executive orders and rampant issuance of regulations. Do you share that concern? And if so, what can be done about it, assuming a Republican-controlled Congress?
Well, I share your concern. I saw this past year, I've seen that the president has worked very hard to circumvent, in my belief, and circumvent and weaken down our Constitution. You know, our founding fathers were very fearful of a powerful executive. They were extremely fearful of a government-centered society where central planners determined and had their hands in every part of our life. Over the last 4 years, we've had some 10,000 new rules, 10,000 pumped out by the departments who work at the behest of the president. We've had 219 major regulations. Now, a major regulation is a regulation that costs over $100 million by the American economy to enforce and to adhere to. 219 times $100 million. If we can get the boot of government off our neck, we can create jobs. We can move our economy forward. But Congress, and if we're fortunate enough to win the White House and win the Senate and retain the control of the House, the very first thing that I've told my speaker that we need to do, other than we got to get a budget done. We got to get a budget done. But after that, we've got to take back from the executive branch the rule, some of the authority that we gave them to get the federal government in control, under control, because they're killing the 10,000 rules in 3.5 years. That's ridiculous.
Can't they be stopped by injunction?
Well, here's the thing, and you know, you talk about our founding fathers intended that members of Congress protected that body. They intended that senators and House members protected the body of Congress. The president would protect the executive branch, and as far as our judicial branch would be protected by the courts and by the justices. Well, what's happened is our founding fathers never intended for half of the Congress to protect the president at the expense of Congress. I don't know if you are aware, but we don't have a partner in the Senate. We've sent 35 jobs bills that are collecting dust. We have sent 2 budgets that have not even been passed and heard. Look, we got to have a willing partner. And so I believe if we win the Senate, we'll have a willing partner, and we'll take back some of that department control, the rulemaking authority that is absolutely killing the American people. And by the way, and running the American factories and American industry overseas, because the environment is so adversarial. They're penalizing productivity. They're penalizing hard work. They're penalizing ingenuity, creativity. So they're literally being run out of the country because of the rulemaking authority.
Thank you. Do you believe in term limits?
You know, I was asked this before here in this room. I do not, and I've told you that I think that we have term limits every 2 years in the House and every 6 years in the Senate. I got to tell you that I don't think that Tallahassee is running any better because we have term limits. I mean, I've been to Tallahassee. I used to go over and lobby over there for many different groups, for children's education and for other issues. And there's some incredible men that I think, for example, Mike Pence of Indiana. Mike Pence has become one of my dearest friends in Indiana. Mike's probably going to become the governor of Indiana. He's leaving the Congress. And I got to tell you, for the people of Indiana to not send a man like that back when he's doing a great job, there's so much institutional knowledge that I think is critical. However, there are people that need to go home. And what Florida's 2nd Congressional District did, I want to remind you that in 2010, you ushered in something that hasn't happened since 1882. You had had enough. And so you elected me the first Republican in this seat since 1882. What took us so long? I can't tell you the people that said to me, you don't have a chance. There is no way you can beat a 7-term congressman. No way. But you know what? It doesn't matter what I thought alone. It mattered what you thought. America has made this mess. This mess has not been made by 535 people. This mess has been made by the American people. I hate to tell you, we are but a sample. There's 308 million people in America. There's 535 of us. We are a sample of America. America, we made this mess. And the only way this mess is going to get cleaned up is if we fix it. And we send representatives and senators that represent who we are and what we're about. And you proved in the last election that you can have flexibility. You can vote anybody out, and you can vote anybody in. I don't think our founding fathers would be okay with us voting ourselves less freedom. And that's what term limits do. It's an emotional, knee-jerk reaction. I'll remind you, conservatives don't make decisions based on emotion. We make decisions based on fact. Pastor, emotions will get you killed. Okay? Haggai, when he told Zerubbabel, he said, give careful thought to your ways. When you talk about voting yourselves less freedom, give careful thought to your ways.
Okay, thank you. Next question.
She rolled her eyes. This is going to be a doozy.
Since Mr. Obama is not a natural-born citizen, claims a forged birth certificate, uses a stolen Social Security number, and has a backdated draft registration card, why have you not proposed articles of impeachment against him?
Let me say this. There's a difference. As a small business owner, I understand the difference between form and function. We got to get back to function. Quit talking about bullet points handed down by the parties, talking points, things that sound good, emotional, frothy experiences. We got to get back to plowing and doing the right thing. And I got to say this. It might look good to introduce articles of impeachment, but that's just form. Haven't I already told you we don't have a willing partner in the Senate? That's not going anywhere. It's not, if Harry Reid is not interested in passing a budget in 2010, 2011, 2012, and 2013, do you seriously think that he's going to take up impeachment of the President of the United States? Let me tell you something. Ephesians will tell you, redeem the time, for the days are evil. Now what he's telling you, do things that matter. It might excite a lot of people to introduce articles of impeachment, but it ain't gonna matter. And so what I'm saying is, you impeach him. And you impeach him on November 6th. Let me tell you this. I was raised in a family where my daddy, when we made a mess, he spanked us. Spare the rod, spoil the child. And I'm going to tell you something. It wasn't fun sometimes. But when we made a mess, he disciplined us. Then he made us apologize to those we had wronged. He wanted us to know humility. He wanted us to know brokenness. And then he made us clean up the mess we made. There's no quick answer to this. America, we've made a mess. We're being disciplined now. We need to apologize to our children because we have wronged them. We have put at jeopardy their future. And now, on November 6th, let's clean up our mess.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Is it true that starting in January, we will have 1% automatically taken out of all bank deposits to help pay for Obamacare?
No. Now let me say this. There is inside of the health care bill. And by the way, we hear the term Obamacare. We know that the president just a few months ago said, look, he's very proud. It's a signature piece of legislation. He said, I'm proud of the term Obamacare. And so, up until this point, I mean, we've all used the Affordable Care Act. By the way, it's not affordable. Okay, health insurance premiums have increased $2,500 for many families. It should be called the Unaffordable Health Care Act. So, but I do know inside that for higher incomes, there is a 3.8% tax on real estate transactions for the upper. That's something that I hear in the blogosphere and I see traveling around, and that is factual. We ran that down, but let me say this: it's not going to affect me because I'm not in that income bracket. But for many people, it's a 3.8% tax on all real estate transactions. And let me also be very clear. There are taxes inside of this health care bill that will affect every income bracket in America. So when the president ran on the claim, I will not raise taxes on the middle class. Well, this bill is going to raise taxes on everyone. So not just the middle class, but on every sector and every income bracket in America is going to know increased taxes because you can't pay for this monstrosity of a bill. And by the way, when you hear us talk about that this bill took $716 billion out of Medicare, this bill is so expensive, they had to get the money from somewhere. And so what this bill basically does is a massive expansion of Medicaid. Medicaid. The government program that has less satisfaction, less quality, longer lines, And by the way, 30 to 40% of the doctors today won't even honor Medicaid, and more will not honor Medicare, because that $716 billion that they took out of Medicare was reimbursements. Now they claim to rich insurance companies, but no. Let me be very clear. It is reimbursements to doctors, hospitals, nursing homes, home health care, hospice, and medical devices. So my question to you is this: what is quality health care without a good doctor? What is quality health care without hospital choice? What is good health care without a good nursing home or home health care or even hospice? By the way, hospice, for the last 6 months of a person's life, hospice is the most affordable, most efficient, and most patient-satisfying treatment. Who doesn't want to be in their own home with their own stuff, with their pets and their grandchildren and their remote control? And yet the health care bill absolutely harms, in a major way, hospice. So I don't even know what the question was, but you got me.
You've answered it.
Did I answer it?
Yeah.
I know I shot just about every squirrel in that tree.
Right. Yes.
Goodness gracious.
There is not a 1% automatically going to be taking out of bank deposits to help pay for
Okay.
Obamacare.
Not that I'm familiar with. Now let me say, 2,600 pages, we're still learning.
There is, however, in the back, if there's any left, a detail of all the new taxes. It'll be starting in 2013. If there's not another copy back there, if you give me your name and your email, I will send it to you.
Elaine, may I add, one of the things, because I don't know if this is the question, but you hear us talk about Taxmageddon. On December 31st, there's a lot of taxes that are going to affect everyone in this room, okay, that you need to know about. Number one, we're talking about payroll taxes. We're talking about estate taxes. And I know, look, I serve on Agriculture Committee, and that's been embraced by Jackson County and Farm Bureau, serving on the Ag Committee, because we oversee the Farm Bill. And I understand that if you have family farms that you've passed down from generation to generation to generation, you have property, you have an asset, but you're not liquid. You can't just immediately turn that into liquid cash. Well, the estate tax, which is brutally cruel to families, what it does is it says that, your exemption is going from a $5 million exemption to $1 million exemption. And that you're going to owe 55% of that estate to the federal government 9 months after the death of your patriarch or your matriarch. Now, I learned a long time ago, people want to buy hogs when they're cheap. I know this, that if the obit runs in the paper, the death has occurred, people start showing up like buzzards on a wire. And they'll just wait you out, because they know in 9 months, you better show up with a really big check, or the federal government's going to take your property and it's going to be sold and auctioned off the steps of the courthouse to 55%. And so what I'm saying to you is the estate tax. I'm saying every income tax bracket is going to go up. Corporate tax rates are going to go up. We will be the highest corporate tax rate in the world, while Canada dropped their corporate tax rate from 36% to 18%. How can we compete with that? So this election is big. We got to address the taxing issue, and we got to get our boot off the throat and the neck of the American small business owner, the farmer, the fisherman, the logger, all of you and the families. You can't lose what your family has passed down for generations because of the irresponsibility of the federal government.
We pay a tax every time we go to fill our cars up.
Absolutely. By the way, gas, I had to tell you, gas has increased from $1.70 average to almost, $4. In California, it's $5, okay? And I don't understand. This isn't a Republican, Democrat. This is just common sense. This is a self-evident truth. Why would this president and the Senate not allow us to construct that pipeline from the Canadian sands down to our oil refineries to give relief to the American homeowner, okay, through heating and cooling bills, the American auto owner, also to make sure that somebody's got to build that pipeline, immediately allowing for job creation in the states that pipeline flows through. What good answer to that question? It's a self-evident truth. It's not rocket science. Elaine?
Next question. Corn will be in short supply this winter because of drought. Yet corn is already contracted, I guess, for the ethanol program. What can Congress do to get corn out of our gas, I guess?
Well, serving on the Agriculture Committee, I'll tell you, it is the corn, the ethanol subsidies are, I mean, they're on their way out. I mean, we know that we do not have the ability with $16 trillion in debt. And look, all you got to do is talk to any small engine repair man, and they'll tell you that stuff is absolutely disastrous for small engines, and it drives up the cost of our food. It is ridiculous. So Elaine, there's going to be, I mean, we already are trying to work hard to make sure that those subsidies are eliminated because of the bad, not just to our engines, but also to the price of food.